Right, so today's big idea, there's no going back to normal. So Lissner and Rapp-Hooper argue that although the rules-based order mostly survived Trump's first term, and the Biden team fell back into familiar habits, Trump's second term has already altered America's role and image in ways that the next administration won't get a reset, and it needs a new strategy built for a changed world. So, but a disclaimer, this is a summary of the author's opinions, those authors being Rebecca Lissner and Mira Rapp-Hooper, from their recent essay in this past Foreign Affairs. Absent at the Creation is the title. This doesn't necessarily mean I agree with their point of view. It's more of, it's good to keep an open mind and try to, understand pretty much, or at least try to understand other opinions. So their core lesson is basically starting from a zero-based review, meaning wipe the slate clean and re-justify interests, tools, and assumptions, because a simple, quote, post-Trump restoration would be reactive and unrealistic. The world will be more multipolar, U.S. capacity is tighter, and the old post-Cold War playbook won't fit anymore. So, some evidence to back this up. So, first, why a clean slate? So, the authors stress that by January 2029, there will be a no going back. Policy shocks in trade, alliance politics, and great power relations have shown how fast fundamentals can shift. The next president should arrive with a proactive vision and execute it with the same speed used to change policy in their first 100 days. Secondly, expect a complex multipolar system. The U.S. and China remain weighty, but Europe grows more autonomous, Russia more recalcitrant, and India more powerful. Planning must reflect constrained U.S. capacity. The authors note that the cost of servicing the U.S. debt already exceeds spending on defense and Medicare, while the U.S. military faces a, quote, readiness crisis and federal workforce capacity has been slashed. Those constraints require trade-offs rather than nostalgia. Third, rethink what counts as a priority. So traditional grand strategy fixates on preventing a hegemon in Eurasia. The authors suggest updating the frame to emphasize technological ecosystems such as AI, clean tech, or quantum, whose mastery may matter more than geographic dominance. That shift elevates technology cooperation, development finance in regions such as Africa and Southeast Asia with fast-growing digital economies. Rebalance global public goods. So a zero-based review should scrutinize how much the U.S. does as the preponderant provider, if I could talk this morning, of things that like freedom of navigation. As an example, identifying where allies can assume more responsibility and where U.S. capacity must be reserved for the most taxing contingencies. So, also, updating alliance logic. So, instead of reflexively trying to undo allies' autonomy trends, the U.S. should refashion bargains around what benefits Americans most and what long-term competition with China actually requires. That means centering economic and tech cooperation, industrial policy harmonization, supply chains for critical minerals and semiconductors, aligned climate and tax policy, and frameworks for AI standards. The United States shifts from wholesale security provider to security enabler, with allies taking more conventional defense while the U.S. emphasizes arms sales and co-production, technology sharing, intelligence collaboration, and operational integration. Next, force posture. Fewer, stronger anchors, basically. So to avoid surprise drawdowns and security gaps, Washington can concentrate presence in a small number of frontline allies, prioritizing Asia, but including Europe, and focus on partners whose threat, perceptions, and capabilities align most closely. The authors list Japan, the Philippines, Poland, South Korea, and the Baltic states. So this supports a steadier update of posture while keeping capacity available for primary challenges. Also, values and sanctions, so less performative, more effective. The essay calls for a more modest emphasis on values rhetoric and restraint and performative sanctions that punish internal conduct but undermine cooperation on shared interests. Recentering partnerships on shared principles can widen coalitions without demanding ideological uniformity up front. And finally, hard edges to anticipate. So, allies invest in self-defense and form new arrangements, some may even seek nuclear capabilities, a risk that comes with a world of greater Allied autonomy and greater U.S. unpredictability. A sober strategy acknowledges that these dynamics and channels rather than wishing them away. So, to conclude, Lissner and Rapp-Hooper's bottom line: don't treat the next term as a repair job, treat it as a founding a new phase. With a zero-based review, tech-centric priorities, alliances rebuilt around economic and technological muscle, and a force posture concentrated where it counts. That's how you lead in a world that won't revert. If this piqued your interest, I encourage you to read the essay yourself and put your views in the comment section below and kind of like start that kind of educated discourse. Again, this isn't necessarily my point of view. I did find it interesting about basically, focusing less on the geographic dominance and more on like the technology dominance in a way. So I thought that was pretty interesting way to look at it, at least. The actual politics and stuff of everything isn't really where I was going with this one, but a little bit more on the authors themselves. So Rebecca Lissner is a senior fellow for U.S. Foreign Policy at the Council of Foreign Relations. She was deputy assistant to the president and principal deputy national security advisor to the vice president during the Biden administration. Mira Rapp-Hooper is a partner at the Asia Group and visiting senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. She was a senior director of East Asia and Oceania and director for Indo-Pacific Strategy at the U.S. National Security Council during the Biden administration. And they both wrote a book called An Open World: How America Can Win the Contest for 21st Century Order. Right, so I give the bios for a couple reasons. One, because, not just citing your source, but two, also so you can kind of get a little bit of their background and kind of understand the biases of the essay itself. Because again, it's basically a geopolitical essay, so you're going to have those sorts of things in it, to say the least. So it kind of makes a little more sense. But anyways, we're going to leave this one here, and please let me know what you guys think, especially of the content. But with that being said, I will see you guys on the next one.